Most organizations invest coaching in their very top performers, the teams that are already succeeding, the people identified as high potential, like those executives, the groups that seem most receptive to development. My research says that's backwards, man. In my doctoral study of 291 professionals, I found that teams with lower learning agility benefited more from coaching than teams with higher learning agility. Not less, more. The moderation effect was statistically significant with a beta coefficient of negative 0.102 and a p-value of 0.015. And the direction was super clear. The stuck teams, the ones that are repeating the same mistakes, the ones that seem resistant to change, those are exactly where coaching has its highest margin of return. Today, I'm going to walk you through why this finding goes against every industry assumption that I've seen, what the theory says about why it's true, and how it should change your coaching investment strategy. Before I go deeper into the findings, let me define what I mean by team learning agility, because this term gets thrown around loosely in practitioner literature. Learning agility is the capacity to learn from experience and apply that learning to new situations, novel circumstances. In the individual differences literature, it's been studied for decades. But my research did something really specific. I adapted the individual differences learning agility scale developed by Milani and colleagues in 2024 to measure learning agility at the team level using a referent shift methodology. That's important because a team's collective ability to unlearn old approaches and adopt new ones is not the same as the average learning agility of its members. See, it's emergent, a property of how the team shares, processes, and acts on new information together. In the model, team learning agility had two roles. As a predictor, a direct predictor, it influenced adaptive performance with a beta coefficient of 0.278. The second strongest direct predictor after coaching itself, but it also acted as a moderator, which is the finding we're discussing today. See, we talked about mediation before. Moderation is different than mediation. See, a mediator explains how X influences Y. A moderator explains when and under what conditions X influences Y. So when I say learning agility, moderated coaching, the coaching actually to performance relationship, I mean the strength of coach's effect on performance dependent on the team's learning agility level. And the direction of that dependence is what makes this finding extremely surprising. Let me show you what the negative moderation actually looks like when you visualize it. When a team has low learning agility, coaching's effect on team adaptive performance is large. You will see a steep slope. When a team has high learning agility, coaching still has an effect, but the slope is less steep. The coaching still helps, but the marginal improvement is smaller. The interpretation is simple. Teams that are already high learning agility are already converting their experiences into adaptive behaviors on their own. Coaching adds a little something to them, but they have the internal momentum to get going, to make the adjustment. Teams that are low in learning agility, they don't have that momentum. They're pretty much the ones that are stuck. Coaching provides that external push, that they can't really generate themselves. This maps directly to two theories that I grounded my research in. One of them is conservation of resources theory. The other one is social cognitive theory. Conservation of resources theory says that teams with few internal resources, in this case, the ones with lower learning agility, their habits benefit disproportionately from external resource inputs. Coaching is an external resource. A team low in learning agility has fewer internal capacities to self-correct. So coaching kind of fills the gap more powerfully than it does for a team that already is self-sufficient. Social cognitive theory adds that learning happens when a triadic exchange between personal factors, behaviors, and environment occurs. The low learning agility teams, the environmental input, coaching, plays a much larger role when the personal behavioral loop is weaker. For high learning agile teams, the loop is already strong. So that external input is less catalytic. Okay? Think about physical training for a moment here, right? This is more of a practical analogy. A highly conditioned athlete generates marginally from a personal trainer. Someone who haven't exercised in years, they will see dramatic gains from the same trainer. The intervention is the same. The marginal impact is truly different. The data says coaching works the same way at the team level. The teams with the most room to grow get the most from coaching. Now let's talk about why this finding matters for how you invest your dollars, because it contradicts the dominant pattern that I see in organizations. Most coaching investments follow one of three patterns. Pattern number one: invest in high potential employees as a retention and development tool. Pattern number two is invest in executives and senior leaders because they're the highest leverage roles. Pattern number three, invest in teams that leadership views as strategically important. A new product team, transformational initiatives, high visibility projects. See, all three of those patterns skew coaching toward teams that are likely to already be high in learning agility. The high potentials, the executives, the strategic teams, these groups tend to be self-selected for adaptability already by the powers that be. They're where the organization bets on the upside, okay? But the data says that where coaching has the smallest return is right there. The teams with the highest coaching ROI are the ones most organizations just don't invest in. The stuck teams, the struggling teams, the ones that are dismissive and resistant to change. Think about what that really means if you're trying to raise the level for everyone. Organizations are systematically under-investing in the teams that would benefit the most from coaching, while over-investing in teams that would improve anyway with or without it. The ROI is inverted from what the common practice is. See, you have to reframe this, because if your coaching budget is limited, the question isn't which teams are most worth investing in. The question really is, which teams will show you the most improvement from coaching? See, the stuck teams are already more responsive to the lever. They're going to be. That's where the leverage actually lies. See, the caveat I'll raise, this doesn't mean stop coaching high performers. It doesn't mean that at all. I think they're important. It means re-examine the assumption that that's where all your coaching dollars produce the most measurable change. Think about that and invest your money accordingly. So what do you actually do with this finding? There are 3 practical shifts. First, measure team learning agility before you decide where to actually invest your coaching dollars. If you don't know your team's learning agility baseline, you can't predict this return. You're investing blind. See, ThriveQ measures this directly at the team level, which is why the diagnostic should come before the coaching engagement. Second, prioritize coaching for your lowest learning agility teams when marginal return on investment matters the most. I know this is counterintuitive, but the data is really clear. If you're trying to demonstrate coaching return on investment in a cost-constrained environment, invest in the teams where improvement is most visible and most attributable to the actual coaching intervention. Third, change how you talk about coaching with executives. Most coaches, they pitch the frame of investment as a development tool for high potential teams. The research supports a different pitch. Coaching is a performance intervention for teams that need structural change. The framing is more compelling to CFOs and to CEOs who think in terms of measurable improvement and not just soft skill improvement, which in today's world, a lot of them are tired of investing in and not seeing the return. Okay, now you see. The teams you think need coaching the least are the ones benefiting from it the most. The teams you think are beyond help are the ones where coaching would have the largest impact. See, that's not my opinion. That is what 291 professionals and structural equation modeling revealed. This is why ThriveQ measures learning agility directly at the team level. The diagnostic tells you where coaching will have the highest marginal return before you spend a single dollar. That's how you turn coaching from being an expense line into a measurable investment. So, we're going to start tying this all together because next week we go into the healthcare industry and we're doing a deep dive. Why the industry under the most sustained pressure has the weakest team infrastructure in the entire study. If you have teams that seem resistant to change, the data says those are your highest ROI coaching candidates. At atypical.com, you can learn more. Find the link in the description. Subscribe, and I'll see you next week. From complexity to capability.